Hello everyone, welcome back. In continuation of the lecture series of the web service, today we are going to learn more about the web service and we are see what is WSDL, digital, and we'll learn more about the web service. Okay, let's again come about the definition of the web service. Okay, web service basically is a medium to propagate between the client and the server. This already I have explained you in detail here. Web service is basically a medium to communicate between the client and the server. If client wants some information, client will request some information from the server, and server will reply back with some response to the client. This is basically a request and response scenario. Okay. Now this is basically this is all happening over the internet. Okay. Now coming to the web service, basically web service are basically two types: SOAP based web service and the REST based web service. SOAP is basically a simple object access protocol, and the REST is basically a representational state transfer. So basically follow the messaging protocol of the XML, while the rest can be mainly rest follow the JSON because it is a lightweighted, or it is also considered can follow XML. Okay. Now coming to the but in case of SOAP, it will only follow the XML. Okay. Now medium for both of them is the internet, and that the HTTP considered hyper transfer protocol, text protocol. Okay. Now coming to the more in detail about that. If you have seen the SOAP message, I don't think you have seen the SOAP message. I assuming you are the basically a new learner on this thing. Let me show you a SOAP message. I just created a few month back a web service. This web service basically what does basically I have created two web service. One web service basically does the student details add and student data remove. This basically let me show. Okay. Actually, I'm not remembering what basically it does. But let me basically this I am remembering basically this basically web service does what does. Once someone hits this web service, basically this basically insert the this value name, roll number, class, and marks into the our database. This basically web service I have made to insert basically name, roll number, class, and marks of the student in our database. Okay. And I have remembered this also. And this basically what does this basically I think if someone wants to delete some student marks from the database, then this web service can do that. Okay. Now coming to the what does basically these all four tag means uh, involve header and body and fold. A SOAP is basically a ordinary XML document containing the following element. SOAP is basically ordinary document, basically ordinary basically SOAP is basically ordinary XML. If you see it is a normal XML message, you see it is a normal XML message that client use to send some information. Client basically send us information in format of this. Okay, and we will reply back them some information. What we are replying back, I will show you. Okay, the client basically some request some information in form of this, and we will reply back some information. Okay, now coming to that, if you see there is a one first line is the SOAP. This is basically a mandatory element, and this is basically the start. This basically help us to uh, you can say that involve the resultant involve This basically help us to cover the message. That is the starting of the message and the ending of message. It help us to define the message, start and end tag of the message. So if envelope is coming at last and it is start, then it means the message is starting from here, message ending here. Okay. Under envelope, basically there is a body tag. If you see, there is a body tag, and this basically under body, basically what are the basically web service going to do? These all are defined here under the body tag. Okay. So under body, we will get the what basically my web service is going to do. Okay. Now coming to the header part. Okay. If you're saving the header part, basically header is basically some gives the header information like that, some information, more information about the that message. Okay. This is not a mandatory element. This can be optional. Here you can see I have not given any header. That's reason I have used the slash here. Okay. So header is the, it is up to you want to send or not. Okay. This is a optional element if you are using any web service. Okay. Now coming to the, this is this part. This is basically the add student detail. Basically this is the basically the operation name. Basically this is basically the operation name what going to perform. You can write anything as per your मतलब आपके मन के ऊपर, ठीक है, any name you can give. Okay. Under that, basically what are the basically thing basically you are going to do, what are the information basically client need to provide, basically that you are going to provide here. Basically I am expecting client will provide me the name and the roll number and the class and the marks. And after that I will what I will do, I will take this all information and I will insert it into our database. And after that I will response back to the client. So what I will get response back, you can see from here also. If you right click on here and do the add the mock service, it is okay. It will take some time. Okay. I will some reply back in this format. Basically, let me show you. Okay. I will reply back to the client in this format like that key under swap envelope under the header and the border. This is basically a prerequisite of that. Under the response, basically if you see here is add student detail response, I am just giving some information. What information I am giving, I have just written in the my code part. Maybe I have written the your database has been inserted successfully, or your transaction has been completed successfully. Student detail has been student detail has been inserted successfully. What are the message basically I want to populate here, I will basically write in the code. And this thing basically here some value will be there, that the important message I want to send, and this will basically client will get in returning once she will request some information. Once client will request some information like that, let me show you. Okay, it is once the client will some request some information for in form of this. Okay, they are going to get back, some information from in form of this. Okay, so this is basically called a response and this is basically called a request. So once client will request some information, this is going to insert into our database. This is one of the example, and they were going to get back a response like that. Similarly, for this case, basically student data remove, client is going to use client is going to give some message here. Okay, and in response, basically they are going to get. Let me show you. They are going to get these all details like that. At a roll number and class, they are going to get details in form of response. Okay, you don't go deep into the what does basically these means. Basically I'm going to create everything in detail. I'm going to create from scratch. Okay, so you don't need to take care about that everything. Okay, just you need to chill and just try to grasp this thing. If you're not grasping, it's fine. Okay, now coming to the this thing. Okay, now now how basically I can make this basically a SOAP basically, how can I basically define these things basically, so that I'm just trying to explain like that. How can I basically create this web service? Okay, if you are seeing here, basically there is a basically some HTTP port, and this is the local host, and this is some port number, and this is some student information. It is written like that. What does basically this means? This is basically what message protocol basically we are following. We are basically using the web service over the internet, so we are following the HTTP. You can use the HTTPS. That's totally depend on the how basically application you are designing. Okay. Localhost basically I am using, basically I this is my personal laptop and I am using the local system. I'm not using any clients or any like that other system like that, any host system. So I am just using the local system. That's the reason I have written here the local host. Okay. This is basically the 8780800. What is that means? Basically 7800 is the basically the port number of the execution group what basically we are using. Okay. If you are not aware what is execution group, you just go and search on the YouTube channel. Basically YouTube channel you will get about you get more about the what is execution group. So this is basically the port number of the EG. Okay. This is basically the once you are create the application, this is basically the prefix of the basically the you can say that web service. You can write anything in the while when we once we are when we are creating this web service, basically you can write anything basically in the prefix. Okay. And whatever you are writing here basically in the prefix, basically that thing basically require here. Okay. And once this is created, once you click on it, basically this web service basically will run and give a response back to you. But currently there is no application of the web service I have created. Basically this thing I have created long back, and this thing basically I have deleted it, so I don't have any. If I hit this now, then it will give me basically a timeout you can give, because or a connection if you can give, because a connection if you basically give timeout, give basically in case of it is reaching to the application and application is taking long time, then it is giving the timeout. Okay. But in case it is not going to connect application, it is trying to connect application, it is not connecting to the application, then in this case basically it gives basically the connection refused. Let me try to hit this. Okay. Just you can see here the web service is running. You can see also here the web service, you can see it gives basically connection to this has been refused. Okay. So it is trying to connect this basically, and currently this is not configured here. Okay. Now so that's the reason basically it is giving the connection refused. It is not trying to connect and giving the error response here. Okay. This is basically a easy way basically to do that. Okay. Now this is a basic of the basically how the and now what is basically a SOAP UI. If you search here, the you can install in your system or it will be there. SOAP UI. There is a tool basically SOAP UI. SOAP UI basically help us to test the SOAP based web service. If you want to test a SOAP based web service, then basically you basically mainly we prefer SOAP UI. Okay. So SOAP based web service is test by the SOAP UI. Okay. Now you can test here the REST web service also, but we use a different tool for the REST web service, and we will learn this in detail in the upcoming session basically. So you don't need to take care about that. Okay. Now, now coming to the visual happen. I think this will be clear to you. Now coming to the how this is basically created. Okay. How basically this is defined basically key for the this is how this will be the request for this, basically this will be the response, and for the this is the if this is the request, then this will be the response. How it is defined? To define this basically we need to create a WSDL. What is WSDL basically? Let me show you, go through definitions. Before that, let me show give you the what is the fault basically. In case let's say some web service basically is not giving proper response, or web service is doing some having some wrong, or web service is having some wrong, then if in case that error happen, then in that case message will go to the fault. Okay, in case of error happen, that will be going to the fault. Okay, now coming to the WSDL part. If you're talking about the WSDL, basically it is the XML standard document used to describe a web service. This description is required so that the client application are able to understand what a web service actually does. Okay, this is basically, if you're talking about the WSDL. Okay, WSDL basically, WSDL is a document where everything, basically what will be the request and what will be the response and what will be the web service URL, and everything is mentioned in that basically XML document. Okay, so now your curiosity will be there, how the visual will be looking. Okay, so I have just, when I was creating this thing, basically I have created the visual. Okay, so let me show you that visual. Okay, I just opened that in the notepad, so let me show you. Okay, this is the visual basically for the these basically web service, these for these two web service, student detail add and student detail remove. Basically these are the basically this is the basically the visual basically I have created. These we still have basically all information, what will the request, what will the response, what will be the basically request, or what is the response, or what will the web service URL. Everything details will be mentioned here, and we will just basically reference this into the our application, provide this into our application, and this all works. In case clients require the information about the web service, we just provide the visual to them, and they will basically understand, because this is basically a simple language of the basically simple language for the to understand it. Okay, so let me go through the all the points what are basically mentioned here. Okay, okay, now if you see, let me, okay, if you see here in the visual, basically in the basically the web service, basically if you see here above, there is some soap involved, basically the namespace is there, a student and the involved, these namespace having him some URLs. Okay, they are present. Okay, this thing also defined here. If you see here at the, this is the, and this is the basically present here, namespace present here. Okay, now coming to the, this is the basically, if you are saying that this is the basically the namespace present here, and this is also the namespace present here. Okay, now for the SOAP involved, basically if you are coming to the, they are basically complex type. If you see here, this is, if you see any request, this is basically called a complex type. Whatever the present inside, like that name, roll number and class, is called the element or the simple type. If you see here, the complex type is defined. It is a complex type is the add student request. Add student request is the complex type. Under that, if you see here, there is the name, roll number, class mark is there, and name, roll number, class mark is there. Everything defined in the visual. If you see here, if you see another complex type is there, that is the remove student detail request. Another complex type is present here. If you see, open it under the, and this is the complex type. Under that, there is a one simple is the message, and it is also defined here. Now if you go inside the complex type, this is basically what will be the data type for the every complex, it is mentioned here. If you roll number, for the data type will be string, name is string, class string, mark message, and f code and f string, everything is written. F code is the fault code, f is the fault string. This thing you basically are going to use in case some like that in case some error happen with the basically with the web service, then this basically will throw an error. Okay, everything what will the data type is mentioned here. Okay, now similarly for the complex response type, everything is mentioned here. Okay, if the response will be it, but there is a message tag in that response. Okay, add student detail response. If you see here, add student detail response, let me show you. Add student detail response, there is a message basically small, the simple type. Okay, similarly for the add remove student detail response, there is also a simple roll number and class, everything is present here. Everything, if you are using fault, in case of in fault, basically fault code and fault string basically came, and these are basically in case of some error happen, it will basically throw here. Okay, everything basically defined here. Okay, if this is the request, then what will the is basically response, everything will be mentioned in the complex type. Now coming to more details about that, if you're going to type basically everything mentioned here, if this will be the input, then this will be the output. Okay, if you're using the student detail remove request, then output will be the student detail remove response. Everything is written. If we are putting in the input, then what will be the output? Okay, similarly if you see here, the you are putting some input, this the student add student detail, then in output you will get like that add student detail response. Everything is mentioned in the visual. Okay, now coming to the student information port type. Okay, if you are coming to information, they here same thing reason, if the input, then what will the output, and about that everything about the fault details, everything mentioned here. Input and output, everything is mentioned here. Okay, now if you come more about the inside the port type, you will get the port type details, and the port type basically same thing, basically what will the operations, everything we are going to code the details. Okay, what will the operation, if you are going here operation, this operation name is the add request, and you are going to you are getting in output as a response. Okay, and if in case some fault happen, you will get in fault. Similarly this is also mentioned, you are getting request and response, in case of fault happen, that will false, and this come under the operation this. Now there is two operation, and these all two operations are mentioned here. Okay, now this is basically the web service, basically URL basically mentioned here. At last basically you will get the what is the web service, basically my URL. Okay, this is basically my the web service URL, and under HTTP my port number, and the basically the student information soap add remove response. Okay, this is basically my the initially when I was basically defining, when I have defined it the web service, basically I have instead of student information, basically I have kept it as a student information soap add response add remove. I have written like that. When I have defined, basically I have written like that. But further, while creating the application, I thought name is not looking good. Though, so I decided to write like that student info. That's enough. Okay. So that's not a big deal. Whatever you are writing in the application, that needs to be placed here if you want to run the web service. This is all about the what the web service, basically what is the visual file. In the upcoming lecture, basically I am going to create this visual for the different scenario I am going to take here, and I am going to create the visual and in detail basically. So hope it will be clear to you, and if you have any doubt, just you can comment me over the this video, or you can mail me over the Learn Pass office here. If you want to connect me over the, you can connect me over the Instagram or the Facebook, and also you can connect me over the Telegram. There are lots of platform is open to connect me. So if you have any doubt, if any question, you can connect me. You may get the response in late, so don't need to worry, but you will get the response. Okay. तो अभी तक मेरे चैनल को आप सब्सक्राइब नहीं किए, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, और चैनल वीडियो को लाइक नहीं किया, लाइक कीजिए, और फिर मिलते हैं एक नए वीडियो के साथ. थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक यू ऑल.